with all kinds of goodies, candy bars. Remember those little Hostess pies? They probably still make them. They're a little pie that's in a plastic wrapper. They were, I think, a dime at that time. Well, I loaded up with those and took them back to my basic training unit, and I kept them in the pockets of my Class A uniform. And the only time you wore that Class A uniform was on Sunday to go to church in basic training. But we'd get inspected all the time, so I always ran the risk of being discovered. And if they found all that stuff on me, I would have been punished. But they never did, and I ended up one night, everybody was so hungry, and somebody saw me eating one of those little Hostess pies. And believe me, I ate it slowly. I relished every bite. I was so hungry. And the guy says, "Man, I'm really starving. Have you got any more? Have you got any more?" I ended up selling him one of my other ones for $1, which was 10
big
times.
profit.
Yeah.
That's good. Good stuff. Tell me what you talked about at the AI convention, because I know you were a lecturer there, right? You did a seminar. What was the subject matter?
I had a PowerPoint presentation, and the thing about my talk is, fortunately for me, my mom saved every letter that I sent home from Vietnam. I went through those over the last few years. I've gone through them and edited them and put them on my computer. Certain excerpts about things that happened over there, and so I'm not relying on my memory, which is terrible. And the one thing I didn't do, I never wrote home about combat experiences because I didn't want to worry my parents. So those were left out. Unfortunately, I wish I had recorded some of those things, because firefights often lasted so quickly, went by so fast, you tend to not remember accurately everything that happened. Had I written all that stuff down, like I wrote down so many other things, it would have been really great stuff. But nonetheless, I had a lot of interesting stories that I wrote, and a lot of little things that happened during the day. Things about putting up with bugs and mosquitoes and the heat, and just little things that happened that I thought the people would find really interesting. My talk was mostly about that, and a little bit about being an atheist in a foxhole.
Okay.
But I ended it with a bang. I had a letter published in the Long Beach Press Telegram verbatim about one of my experiences in Vietnam. We got in this firefight one day, and after the firefight, one of my buddies was visibly shaken. He was shaking like a leaf because he narrowly escaped death. He was literally dancing bullets, like John Wayne in one of his old war movies. He said, "I never saw it, because during that firefight I was busy firing my weapon, so I never saw what happened to him." But I could tell he was really shook. And he said, "God saved me." And at the time, I just bit my tongue. He was so disturbed and so full of anxiety. I didn't want to start an argument.
Probably a
with him.
good idea.
Later on in Vietnam, after he had gone home, I was assigned, along with a medic, to stay on a South Vietnamese Army base camp. It basically is a hill surrounded by bunkers. And we just stayed back to guard the gear of our guys that went out in the field that day, and the medic was checking up on people, doing some checkups on people. Unfortunately, the South Vietnamese Army guys would steal. They lived up on the hill with their families, by the way, and they would steal everything we had, because from their mindset, we got everything by a helicopter, so if they stole something, it's no big deal. The helicopter would resupply us. They just didn't know how things worked.
Well, was it food? It was weapons? Was it
anything they can get there? Well, not weapons. We kept trying. We always had our weapons close by. But I had a camera stolen, for example, a 35 millimeter camera. But anyway, I'm laying down in this makeshift hooch, and it's hotter than hell out there. And all of a sudden, I hear this boom, this loud explosion. And of course, at first I thought, oh boy, here we go, we're getting mortared. Well, nothing else happened, except I turned around and I looked around the corner, and all these people were running to the center of the compound. And this woman in black pajamas with what we call the coolie hat, which is a disrespectful term, was running, and she had a little infant in her arms, and she was covered with blood. Her whole chest area was covered with blood. And the medic came out. We set the baby on this towel on the ground, and it was the baby that was hurt. He had a hole the size of a nickel right here in the center of his chest. And I sat there and I watched that little baby die. I watched him, his lips turn blue, his skin turn pale, and quit breathing. I watched the blood slowly oozing out of that hole and then stop. It was horrible. It was one of the worst things I ever saw. And one of the reasons it was one of the worst things I ever saw is why it happened. 2 South Vietnamese soldiers got into a fight, and one threw a hand grenade at the other. The hand grenade exploded and just blew this one guy away. But a piece of shrapnel from that hand grenade hit this little child, 2 years old, right here in the chest. I mean, what are the odds? And the child died. And so what I would have asked my friend, or anybody that believes that they're subject to the miracle of God, what happened to this little baby's miracle? Why you? Why were you saved and not this poor innocent little baby? And that has stuck with me for my whole life. And anytime somebody thinks they've been selected by God for some kind of miracle, I'll always bring up that story of one poor child of war who never had a chance.
Well, there's so many
or a
other
miracle.
examples like what you just mentioned.
Plane crashes and train wrecks. And, yeah.
That's right, a number of different.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, so we're going to conclude this particular episode, but thank you very much. And we're going to be back with Bob, with Robert in a few more minutes, or for our viewers at home, you're going to have to wait till next month. Thank you.
It's fun.